Season 1, Episode 4. There are places out there that people warn you about. Inhospitable, rugged places that hold countless dark tales. Whose screams really hide within the howls of the icy winds, and what creatures lurk undetected in the caves of the Mealy Mountains? Does the isolation of the desolate north play tricks on our minds? Or is there something ancient out there waiting to be found? Together we'll explore the forgotten places of the rugged Canadian wilderness on this episode of I'm Scared, but I Like It. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, it's Julianne.
It's Chloe.
Welcome to another iteration of the I'm Scared, but I Like It podcast.
Whoop whoop. Welcome to episode 4. We've never been here before. That's so bad.
Oh. Chloe, what's going on? Is there anything new? Anything to report?
Yeah, a couple things. First thing, really excited to see the movie Nope today by Jordan Peele.
Jealous.
I'm going on a self-care date, and I'm really excited.
You have to tell me how it is. I will be waiting until it's streaming, so I'll have to wait a lifetime, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'll just tell you, good, not good. And I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, Julianne and I are fans of Jordan Peele's work. I really, in particular, liked Get Out. So if you haven't seen his work yet, please go. It's
very
so
good. Good stuff.
So good.
Nope seems right up both of our alleys with the alien UFO potential connection. Though it's veiled in mystery. It's hard to tell exactly what's going on.
Yeah, and if you don't know what we're talking about, go back to episode 1. You'll hear a lot about our thoughts on UFOs and extraterrestrial
Was that
life.
episode 1?
That was episode 1.
That's so I don't know why that feels crazy to me, but cool. Yeah, episode 1. That's what I knew as well, and that is what I also recommend.
How did you forget so
I don't
easily
know.
already? It's only episode 4.
It feels like just yesterday we were talking about aliens.
Yeah, episode 2 and episode 3, we just breezed right through those. Also, Severance, the show Severance, they got nominated for 14 Emmys.
That's crazy.
Which it's so crazy. And if you haven't watched Severance yet, please go watch that. Because if you like creepy, weird shit, you will love that movie. I mean, that show, excuse me.
I still haven't watched
Anyway,
it.
sorry, I'm just throwing out my recommendations.
I don't have any. I'm glad you have some because I don't.
And I guess in other creepy news, I just can't tell you. There's something really juicy that we can't tell you because it has to do with something I can't tell you about. And it's like a really good story and we just can't tell it to you.
It's infuriating. And this is not a teaser. This is not like a tune in next time and maybe Chloe will tell you. She's literally just never going to tell you.
Like
She's been sworn to secrecy.
I can't. Yeah. That's all I can say. I cannot say anything more. But anyway, just know that crazy shit goes on. But without further ado, I think we are ready to start our episode.
I just drew on my chair by accident.
Oh my God.
I'm trying. Hold on. Let me just erase it a little
Julianne
bit.
is erasing something off of her chair.
It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Guys, send good
It's
energy
fine.
to her chair.
It's fine. That's good enough. Okay. Yeah, what?
Okay.
We're recording a podcast right now. What's going on? Cool.
Without further ado, let's jump right in.
Let's fucking go to Canada, bitches. So, we're going to Canada.
Whoa.
Chloe, I know you're not on the mainland. Have you heard of Canada?
Oh my God. You know what? I think I have.
Great.
Is it that great big piece of land right above
it's
the United States of
yes,
America?
that big north part, that whole bit.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have seen that on a map
Awesome.
before.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you'll know exactly what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Okay.
So Chloe always tells me these amazing stories about, kind of spooky Hawaiian stuff and happenings and folklore, yada, yada, yada. And I thought, what better thing to do than to introduce some information, some spooky intel from the Great North. I'm not in Canada, but I'm close to Canada. I might as well be in Canada. And I didn't really find anything super interesting about Minnesota that I wanted to dive into. So I thought we would just keep heading north and talk about Newfoundland and Labrador. So I read a book called Whisper on the Night Wind by Adam Shoalts. And I ended up in a rabbit hole kind of exploring different ideas of what might be hiding in the desolation of the Canadian Northeastern mountain ranges.
I'm really excited. I just want to say I didn't know what this podcast was going to be about. And now I am so invested. I'm excited.
Excellent. The first instance that I would like to introduce you to is something that took place in a small little settlement town called Traverspine. So this was the story that kind of drew me in initially into this whole creepy mess. And this was written by somebody named Elliot Merrick, who was an American resident of Labrador. And this entry was dated September 1930. And this is a chilling tale that he had heard from a trapper. Ghost stories are very real in this land of scattered, lonely homes and primitive fears. The Traverspine gorilla is one of the creepiest. About 20 years ago, one of the little girls was playing in an open, grassy clearing one autumn afternoon when she saw come out of the woods a huge, hairy thing with low-hanging arms. It was about 7 feet tall when it stood erect, but sometimes it dropped to all fours. Across the top of its head was a white mane. She said it grinned at her and she could see its white teeth.
Grin? I don't like that word. I don't like that word, grin.
It grinned at her.
Okay. A gorilla? Okay, a gorilla. Okay.
Well, gorilla's
Go
like
on.
the best word they could come up with, I guess.
Grinning gorilla is terrifying to me. I don't know why. That just streams straight out of my nightmares.
It's terrifying.
Okay.
It gets worse.
Oh.
When it beckoned to her, she ran screaming to the house. Its tracks were everywhere in the mud and sand and later in the snow. They measured the tracks and cut out paper patterns of them, which they still keep. It is a strange-looking foot, about 12 inches long, narrow at the heel, and forking at the front into 2 broad, round-ended toes. Sometimes its print was so deep it looked to weigh 500 pounds. Other times, the beast's mark looked no deeper than a man's track. They set bear traps for it, but it would never go near them. It ripped the bark off trees and rooted up huge rotten logs as though it were looking for grubs. They organized hunts for it, and the lumbermen who were then at Mud Lake came with their rifles and lay out all night by the paths watching, but with no success. A dozen people have told me they saw its tracks with their own eyes, and it was unlike anything ever seen or heard of. One afternoon, one of the children saw it peeping in the window. She yelled, and old Mrs. Michelin grabbed a gun and ran for the door. She just saw the top of its head disappearing into a clump of willows. She fired where she saw the bushes moving and thinks she wounded it. She says, too, that it had a ruff of white across the top of its head. At night, they used to bar the door with a stout birch beam and all sleep upstairs, taking guns and axes with them. The dogs knew it was there, too, for the family would hear them growl and snarl when it approached. Often it must have driven them into the river, for they would be soaking wet in the morning. One night, the dogs faced the thing, and it lashed at them with a stick or club, which hit a corner of the house with such force it made the beams tremble. The old man and boys carried guns wherever they went, but never got a shot at it. For 2 winters it was there. They believed to this day it was one of the devil's agents, or more likely, the old feller himself.
What the fudge? So that, to me, just sounds like Canada's version of the Yeti.
It does have some Yeti vibes, but what's interesting are the feet. The cloven hoof, you know what I mean? Like,
oh, I missed that part.
Cloven hoof is basically what it's described as, and it's, how long did they say it was? 12 inches long.
Wait, I thought you said it was like narrow
at the heel,
bottom,
and forking at the front into 2 broad, round-ended toes.
A hoof?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that just changed everything. It's a grinning gorilla with hooves. Oh, no.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
That's why it said one of the devil's what? Right at the end?
One of the devil's agents. Or just the devil himself.
Usually the devil himself is usually described as like a goat person, right? With horns, but like a gorilla with hooves?
Well, see, okay, I think you're latching onto the gorilla idea too much. I think...
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm just saying, I don't know if... I think they mostly just mean that it was like bipedal, like it was hairy and standing up. I don't think any of the descriptions would put like a gorilla face onto the creature.
Okay, yeah, I got stuck on gorilla.
Let go of gorilla.
It was like
open
the
your mind.
Arms. Oh, so sorry. Well, that's terrifying.
It is terrifying. So is this? And there are multiple accounts of this from not just trappers who arguably know the area and animals very well, but also from doctors.
Oh, no.
And they didn't know what it was. Nobody knew what it was.
Mm-hmm. When's the last sighting of this? Do you know?
Probably late 1800s.
Oh, I wonder if this thing went extinct, if it was real.
Well,
I mean, obviously they saw something.
Obviously they saw something. That is for certain. And we will discuss what it could have been. But today we're not only going to talk about the traverse spine creature, aka the traverse spine gorilla, aka maybe the devil. We're going to be talking about several creatures and tales from the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. So this is the most eastern part of Canada, the southeastern, I guess you would say. I may have said northeastern earlier. It goes north, but there's kind of like, if you looked at a map, you would know what I'm talking about. There's kind of like an up. There's more up, but like it kind of reaches like an arm. It's like, hey, it doesn't matter. It's most of the eastern coast, and normally people just say Newfoundland, but it's actually called Newfoundland and Labrador. So we will be focusing mostly on the southern Labrador area and the Mealy Mountains.
Ooh.
Historian Francis Parkman, he has a book called Pioneers of France in the New World, published 1865. He wrote about Labrador. On this dim verge of the known world, there were other perils than those of the waves. Griffins, so ran the story, infested the mountains of Labrador.
I love griffins.
Well, you're in the right place.
Oh, griffins.
So the eastern shores of Canada are certainly not welcoming. When you first arrive from the cold North Atlantic, you're faced with these looming mountains. There's all this thick fog. It's really rugged. The rugged mountain range is extremely cold and desolate. I'll show you some pictures in a second, but the mountains go all the way to the northernmost part of Newfoundland Labrador area, and they continue also to the top of Canada in the Torngat Mountains. I'm going to be pronouncing a lot of things wrong. I'm going to be pronouncing Canadian places wrong. I'm going to be pronouncing French names wrong. I'm going to be pronouncing Innu names wrong, but I'm going to be trying my best. The Torngat Mountains, they tower 5,500 feet tall. I can't imagine how tall that is, but it's very tall. And Torngats actually comes from again, I tried looking up how to pronounce everything properly. It comes from an Inuit. I think that's how you actually are supposed to pronounce it. Inuit.
Okay.
It comes from an Inuit word meaning place of evil spirits.
Oh. By the way, are there any pictures of the traverse spine?
No. It's like nowhere. Okay. It's middle of nowhere.
Okay.
So when you roll up on Newfoundland and Labrador, this is the kind of shit that you see, where it's just like rugged mountains. This is a cute town, don't get me wrong, but you don't see a lot of plant life straight away. It's a lot of rocks.
Yeah.
And, you're driving your ship. You're going between, what are they called? Icebergs and stuff like that, So it's not like fun and fancy free necessarily. Did I show you? I don't think I showed you. Look at this one. Like, those are treacherous waters and rocky cliffs.
That cliff looks treacherous AF.
It's very
just
treacherous.
It's just solid vertical rock. Like,
yes,
it just looks very.
It's not lush.
Menacing. It
is menacing.
It's not welcoming.
Griffins live here.
They make it lush. They make it lush with their fluff. But these rocks, no.
Yeah. So the northernmost bits, the Torngat Mountains, this is what those look like. Pretty, but a little desolate. Here's another glance. So it's like some hardcore wilderness, you know what I'm saying? And these are the Mealy Mountains.
It's still like breathtaking though. So
definitely,
beautiful.
Definitely. Like,
wow. But yeah, I can imagine.
Like if griffins and giants were going to be roaming around, this is where they're doing it. Because it's just this expansive, big, breathtaking, sometimes a little gloomy wilderness.
And I can imagine if I were, coming to this new land on a ship and I see these cliffs and this bare landscape. Yeah, I'd be pretty freaked out a little bit. I'd be creeped out.
Yeah.
For sure. It's not the most people who maybe sailed to Hawaii and saw it from a distance were probably like, whoa, this is amazing. This is paradise. Yeah. And then compared to this where it's like, oh, should we?
A lot of explorers were just like, there's no reason to be here. Like, just avoid the area. Just avoid it entirely. Yeah. Before we go ashore, I'd be remiss not to mention a phantom island right off of the coast called the Isle of Demons.
Oh.
Yep. Literally the Isle of Demons.
Whoa.
So I love a phantom island. Do you know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about phantom islands?
Yeah, I can get on. Yeah. Sure.
Conceptually, do you know what a phantom island is?
Well,
I don't just mean like an island of phantoms.
No. I'm thinking it's an island that some people see or encounter, but it really isn't on the map and there's no physical evidence of it. But sometimes people encounter it but it's like, there's no island there. So where the hell were you? Am I correct? Okay.
You're basically correct. Most of, at least, because of recorded history, what we see a lot of the time is islands that are on maps that are then taken off. So islands that maybe they thought were there, maybe they got the place wrong, maybe they heard legends of a place. Some people see it, some people don't. So they go with the rumors initially, then they're like, sorry, that's not real. Quote unquote, not real. Who knows? So one of my favorite phantom islands, I don't know why, but the concept has just like always stolen my imagination. Like in the best way. I love Phantom Island. Have you heard of High Brazil?
No.
That's probably not how you pronounce it. It's HY-BRASIL.
Okay.
It's an island that used to be on maps off the coast of Ireland, and Irish myths described it as cloaked in mist, except for one day every 7 years when it would become visible but still cannot be reached.
You know what this whole episode reminds me of is King Kong. You know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We're not going to do Hollow Earth, though, like New King Kong.
Also One Piece. Because I feel
seen.
like... Okay, well, I'm pretty sure that... I don't know. And also The Mummy.
I haven't seen The Mummy. I'm sorry.
Well, that's disappointing. That's one of my favorite movies. I don't know why, but it is. Wow, offended.
Wasn't it like everyone's sexual awakening?
Sure. It could have been.
Okay. That's just what I've heard. I've heard tell.
Oh, because of Brendan Fraser?
And like every character. Maybe it's like bisexuals love it.
I haven't heard that on the street.
Oh. on the streets of the
out
internet.
on the streets. Yeah,
that's what I've heard.
Oh no! Well, in that movie, this isn't going to give away too much at all if y'all haven't seen it. But there's like a hidden city, like a legendary city that's supposed to appear at some certain time, and so a lot of people don't believe it. But at a certain day they get there, and it almost like a mirage, it just appears in the middle of the desert. This beautiful, incredible city.
I fucking love that.
That's what reminded me of this.
Oh my God, I love it.
That's
so
what this
much.
reminded me of. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's the same shit. It's the same fucking shit. This one's less fun.
Okay, well, you would love The Mummy then.
I should watch The Mummy, apparently.
You should watch The Mummy. Guys, if you haven't watched The Mummy, what are you doing? It's fun. It'll make you laugh. It's creepy AF.
It sounds perfect.
Anyway, I like how we just promote random movies and shows on this podcast. You're welcome.
If you guys haven't seen this movie from the 80s or whatever, like you've got to check it out.
I think.
90s.
Dude, now I want to watch that. Okay. Anyway, back to the show.
So I will read a description from that same guy, Francis, from earlier. I will say Francis. Francis has a little flair for the dramatic, okay? Like, I apologize. I'm just reading his words. Okay. So, Francis, what he has to say about the Isle of Demons is 2 islands north of Newfoundland.
Too dramatic already.
Were given over to the fiends from whom they derived their name, the Isles of Demons.
Oh.
An old map pictures their occupants at length, devils rampant with wings, horns, and tail. The passing voyager heard the din of their infernal orgies, and woe to the sailor or the fisherman who ventured alone into the haunted woods. True it is, writes the old cosmographer Thevet, and I myself have heard in the air on the tops and about the masts a great clamor of men's voices, confused and inarticulate, such as you may hear from the crowd at a fair or marketplace, whereupon they well know that the Isle of Demons was not far off. Do you love
Francis.
Francis.
Is this fiction?
Francis.
Was
Literally,
this like, what
there
is
are
this?
several of his accounts that I just have to ignore entirely because I'm just like, I know how much you loved writing this. I can tell how much you fucking loved writing about the haunted orgies, and that's why I can't trust you, Francis, because you just want to be writing fiction, and that's fine.
It sounds like erotica. And that's fine. That's perfectly wonderful.
That's fine.
It sounds
just go there.
Just, yeah. No.
Just take it there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's some pretty twisted erotica, though.
Don't yuck someone else's yum.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't yuck
guys.
Francis's yum.
I'm Francis. I'm sorry.
Francis, we're sorry. I apologize on Chloe's behalf.
No, I apologize for myself on my behalf.
So
I'm so sorry.
Even though this is a little, I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love it. It's fantastic. But it's easy to dismiss a little bit because it's so fantastical. However, what's interesting is this island actually has a well-documented real-life story of someone being on it.
Oh, tell me more.
If we actually know where it is. Question mark? Who knows? I don't know. I know nothing. I'll tell you.
Okay.
I'll tell you a little more.
Okay.
In we're going into French territory now, so we're in trouble pronunciation-wise. I listened to Google Translate to try to learn how to speak French, but it didn't work.
I might be able to help with
Can
my
you help
4
me?
years. Yeah, I might be able to help you. Okay.
You can tell me how to pronounce it after I say it wrong.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay. So, in 1542, an extremely wealthy young, 20-year-old French woman named Marguerite de la Roche. I don't know how to do it.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
You do it.
I don't know. I'm probably going to get it wrong.
Marguerite de la Roche. I try to make it sound sing-songy.
Marguerite de la Roche. De la Roche? Like that?
The R's are hard.
Roche. I don't know if that's silent, though.
Hold on. I still have the Google Translate open. I'm going to try to play it and then repeat
Marguerite de la Roche.
Marguerite de la Roche.
Marguerite de la Roche. Marguerite de la Roque del... Blah, blah, blah. I forgot the rest.
Yeah, you can skip that part because you don't need to say the whole thing. That was just me doing my due diligence.
Marguerite de la Roque. Whatever. Fuck it. You're doing great.
Thank you so much. Okay. So what were we talking about?
Marguerite de la Roque.
Marguerite de la Roque. She gets on a boat, okay? She gets on a boat, a big old ship with Jean-François de la Roque, Sieur de Roberval.
Oh, okay? Jean-François.
Jean-François. That's what we will call him now. So she gets on the ship with him to embark on some colonizer bullshit. Like, that's what he's there for. He wants to, like, spread the good word, blah, blah, blah.
Jean.
Pourquoi?
Jean-François.
So the reason why, I'm just going to say Marguerite tagged along on the trip isn't entirely clear. And also, there are some stories about Jean-François being enamored with her, but also being like her uncle or her cousin or something. Jean-François.
Jean-François.
So
why?
A little iffy. I don't know what's going on there.
Okay.
But
it was a different time, I guess.
It was a different time.
Yeah.
It was a different time.
I want to yuck someone else's yum, I guess.
I would never yuck Jean-François' yum.
I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry if I'm offending people.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Nobody's listening, so don't worry about it.
Oh, true.
So, while they're on the ship headed to Canada, Marguerite is said to have started a romantic entanglement with some guy on the boat. I don't know if this guy has a name other than, quote, her lover, unquote. I kept just seeing him referred to as her lover. I may have seen his name once, but I don't remember it. And everything else said her lover. So that's who he is. Jean-François is said to have gotten quite angry about this for who knows what reason. We don't need to go into it. And he dropped her lover, and a nurse / Marguerite's confidant named Damien off on the Isle of Demons. He's just like, fuck this. Even though everybody like avoids the Isle of Demons because of all these stories, he's like, that's where I am. I'm going to sail the ship over there, drop her off. And he gives them, or they, I guess, they give the crew, not the boat crew. The boat crew gives the gang, our gang of ragtag lovers and nurse, some guns, some ammunition, food, and other necessities. And then they were wished good luck and just left completely alone on this uninhabited island to fend for themselves. So.
Wow. Karma's real, I guess.
I guess.
Oh, God.
I love that you're on Jean-François' team.
Oh,
like,
no.
Well, she got what was coming to her, I guess.
I don't know. Maybe Jean-François was like a shithead, so.
We don't know the whole story.
We don't know this whole story. I ain't judging anyone.
So, luckily, I guess, it was summertime. It doesn't stay summertime, but at this time, it's summertime, so they find a hollowed out tree to hang out in. That's what I've seen. But some retellings mention a cave. So I don't know if they were always just hanging out in a tree or if they also hung out in a cave. Some stories, particularly Francis's story, recount them being up all night, scared to death of horrific sounds in the night. Wailing beasts and demons. There are these stories of a thick, unnatural fog descending and unnatural wailings, just like screaming like all night long, and they're just like holding on to their crucifixes and rosaries and, you know, waiting for the night to end.
Gosh.
Yeah, but it's unclear exactly whose retelling of this is authentic. Another telling says that the winds howled around their shelter, making the noises of, quote, 1,000 devils, unquote, trying to get to them. So did the winds howl like demons, or did demons howl like demons? The truth is lost to time, I guess. We don't know.
So far, if that story is true, that's so creepy.
It is creepy.
Whether or not it's like the wind, like, okay, so my initial thought would be, if this wasn't supernatural, it would be like canyons or some sort of rock formations that can create wind sounds like that, wind channels.
Waterfalls can too, like,
oh, can they?
Water can do weird. Yeah, like, I think if it's some like trapper described it. I was reading so many weird like trapper journals from Canada. Like, a wind going in like one side can make it sound like two people like talking to each other, even though nobody's. I don't know.
Oh, wow. That's really, really creepy.
It is creepy.
Yeah, nature can be kind of creepy sometimes.
For
and
sure.
disorienting for sure. Yeah.
Yes.
But I mean, it's a different story if they actually saw creatures versus just hearing them and being scared.
Yeah.
Back in the day, they didn't have all the science either and all this research.
True.
And a lot of the things that we now know to be like myths that existed, we now know are just natural occurrences, right? Like eclipses, for example.
Yes, that's a very good example.
Right. I mean, but being back in the day when we don't have that knowledge yet.
Yeah, what are you supposed to think?
What are you supposed to think? Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but it would be different if they saw creatures. That'd make it different. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and like,
Francis
maybe did. Francis definitely did. So this is where it gets a little grim. Prepare yourselves, because I mean, it's a survival story at this point. Trigger warning, death, people not surviving.
Okay.
So unfortunately a fact of life. But Marguerite, she found herself pregnant while they were trying to fight for survival every day. Very inconvenient. I guess convenient that Damien is a midwife kind of nurse. Very unfortunately, her quote unquote nameless lover died before she gave birth. And this was 8 months after they were abandoned. Marguerite did manage to deliver the baby successfully, but 8 months after her unnamed lover died, Damien, the nurse, died. And shortly after, sadly, the baby perished as well. So Marguerite, this extremely bougie woman, then remarkably just managed to fend for herself for an entire year. She was just completely alone on the Isle of Demons. And she, I do think this is factual. During the last couple of months that she spent on the island, she started to see strange and horrific visions. Or did she? Did she see what was on the island? Or was she just hallucinating from isolation and who knows what else? So many, many times she saw boats go by and she did everything that she could to get anyone's attention or get any help. She used fires, she used gunshots, whatever, yelling. But because everyone was so fucking afraid of this island because of all the stories they had heard of it, they assumed she was a demon. So they just ignored her. There were so many opportunities where she could have been saved, but because of this superstition, they were like, I'm not going over there. Finally, though, a fishing boat dared to approach the island, and they saw that it was either a French-speaking demon or a human person, and Marguerite was rescued and returned home, where she wrote a book and became a minor celebrity.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy story.
So you're telling me that there was an actual physical island that she was on.
She was definitely on an island.
Okay, so this was a real person that was on a real island.
Correct.
That got saved by a real crew and then came back and wrote an actual book and became
Correct.
Oh, wow. So this isn't like myth or legend. This is
a
real
this
occurrence.
Is straight up actual history.
Okay, so Francis might be onto something. But what kind
Francis
of...
might be.
Maybe
Here's
Francis.
Do you see that I'm sharing my screen?
I do see it, yes.
It's very possible that it was this island. But the question is just like, was this an island that everyone regarded as the Isle of Demons, but it's actually just a normal island? Or did they think this was the Isle of Demons, but they were wrong and the Isle of Demons is somewhere else and now it's lost? I don't know. I'll zoom out now and you'll kind of get a better idea of where we're at. So this is Newfoundland and Labrador. See, it kind of reaches north here. There's more Canada up there, but this was the southernmost kind of area.
I was thinking, this island was kind of farther out and cloaked in fog.
It's not.
But that's pretty close. I mean, okay, so
yeah.
I live in Hawaii, right? And from certain points on our island, I can clearly see the other island in the distance.
You'd think that she would be able to see this area.
You would definitely be able to see that because the Hawaiian Islands are pretty far apart and we can see each other.
Yeah.
But,
well, and then this is the question of, this is where they think she might have been. Nobody knows specifically where she was.
That seems really odd to me that she was literally right there. That's, no, that's kind of weird.
It's kind of weird.
Something doesn't sit right with me. How could she be lost on this island when she's like literally right there? I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't know.
To me, I don't.
There are questions.
To me, that
Chloe doesn't buy it.
I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Like, I really am.
Valid.
I am all about, like the truth and facts. But when something doesn't add up to me, then that's strange. I don't know. Why would he just drop her on that little, like, it looks so close to the main place, unless that at the time that area was kind of deserted, then maybe it did. It was
it was definitely deserted, and who knows? Maybe there's kind of that little part where it's almost like a river, basically, like separating them is what it looks like. I mean, I'm sure that's just a scale issue, but like maybe that would have to her just look like more of the same island. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe, or maybe she couldn't cross that river anyway to get to the other part because the water was way too cold.
Yeah, that's true. No, treacherous.
It's really big. She doesn't know
how to...
Too many
griffins feeding their children.
Yeah.
On the cliffs.
Yeah, all those griffins are causing problems. And maybe she didn't know how to create a raft or didn't feel like it was feasible with, because it was pretty bare, right? We were looking at the landscape there. Not a lot to work with, like as if, compared to if you were like on a deserted island that was very rainforesty with coconut trees. And no, I mean, this just seems kind of brushy and maybe some trees, but not a lot going on.
Yeah.
Some pine. Kind of hard.
Mysterious stuff.
That's mysterious to me. Yeah.
Are you ready to go ashore?
Oh, yeah.
On this tour of haunted Labrador?
To another shore?
Yeah. We're going to the mainland. Are you ready to go to the mainland?
Yeah. Take me there.
Okay. The Mealy Mountains in the south of Labrador is a wild, desolate expanse that nearly everyone avoided, Indigenous people and colonizers alike. Actually, record of alleged monsters in this area can be traced back all the way to the Icelandic Vinland sagas, which were written down between 1220 and 1280, describing events occurring around 970 to 1030. My brain can't even grapple with when in time that was. So this is Viking time. Got it?
Got it.
One of the Vikings who voyaged to this part of Canada, Eric the Red, wrote about his son Thorvald, who was shot with an arrow and killed by a uniped. Are you familiar with unipeds?
Are they cousins of the unicorn?
Cousins in metaphor only, because they're just like humanoid, but with one leg hopping around.
That seems really inconvenient. From an evolutionary standpoint, that seems a little hard.
Yeah, definitely. And while there are some stories of somewhat interesting, one-eyed, one-legged humanoids in Middle Age United Kingdom and also in Africa, nothing about the description from this Viking tale actually seemed that weird, other than there only being one leg. They didn't describe any other strangeness. So it's fully possible that it was just an Indigenous person who happened to have one leg. who shot and killed his son. So that's the earliest kind of, or one of the earliest recordings of quote unquote monsters in the area. But I'm going to try to pronounce it correctly again, the Inuit, I'm reading this from The Whisper on the Night Wind by Adam Shoalts. Thanks, Adam. The Inuit, according to both oral history and archaeology, avoided Labrador until the 1500s, when a few hardy wayfarers crossed over the ice from the north on Baffin Island, a hazardous undertaking. The Inuit myths described the creatures they found inhabiting Labrador as ogre-like subhumans, incredibly strong and large, but slow-witted and primitive. Some anthropologists have speculated that these legends were based on actual encounters with the Dorset, a mysterious people who lived in the Canadian Arctic before the Inuit arrived from Siberia. So this is where we get giants in the mix.
Ooh.
In Inuit legends, these people are referred to as the Tunit. And these large people, were said to scare easily. And this actually adds up with the Dorset people because they seem to be a very insular community. They didn't really get involved with groups outside of themselves. Initially, scientists did not think that the Inuit people and the Dorset people would have overlapped at all because the Dorset people somewhat mysteriously went entirely extinct at some point between 1000 and 1500 BCE. The common thought was that there was the Dorset people, then the Thule people, who arrived sometime before the Dorset people died off, with there being no genetic connection between them, and then the Inuit people coming from the Thule people. But some radiocarbon dating has shown that the Dorset people may have been around as long as 1350, in which case there would have definitely been overlap between the giants and the Inuit people, which just completely validates like all of the Inuit legends about these Tunit people who were said to be large and very shy and standoffish.
Now that is too neat. No, it really is. It really is. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Whoa. That would be really cool explanation.
What else would you think if you're coming across a variant of human that you've not seen before, you know, like that they're quote unquote ogre people, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, if you're not familiar with what these people look like or act like. I don't know. It's very interesting to me. And I mean, the Dorset people are interesting in general because it's just like they were so isolated. They really kept to themselves, and their culture was quite different from like the Thule people and stuff like that. I don't know. And the fact that they just completely died off, they didn't like seem to intermingle with other groups. They just kind of stuck to themselves and died off is very interesting to me. Yeah.
I wonder why they were more introverted that way.
Yeah.
I'm actually reading a book called Survival of the Friendliest right now. It's talking about...
Interesting.
Yeah, it's talking about why some groups of human species lived and some didn't. So obviously this is a lot earlier. But yeah, those who were more able to communicate and have connection, that seemed to be a very big sign of survival. Like it wasn't really who was the most aggressive or who was like the most fearful or strong. I mean, those things did count at some level, but it was really like kindness and community and helping each other, creating those kind of bonds. So I think especially if there is a group of people who are isolated, then that can be very limiting, right?
Yeah.
Which is very telling for even Homo sapiens now, right? Like when we're isolated, and the pandemic really showed us this, is when we're isolated, we're not fine. We're not okay. And there's a very deep genetic reason for that. Very interesting stuff. Yeah.
Definitely.
But if they were around in 1350, that's pretty cool because that would validate, as you said, the Inuits' stories and legends.
Yeah.
Right. Like the things that they...
We love confirmation.
We love confirmation. We love finding out this kind of stuff. I love that.
Even outside of run-ins with new to them variants of human, there's no shortage of strange creatures in this barren place. A couple extremely cool locations in the Mealy Mountains include Cave Creature Lake.
Love it.
And Evil Creature Mountain Lake.
These are really creative names.
Top 2 vacation spots.
Highly recommend. 10 out of 10.
That's where we're going.
That's where we're going. When we fundraise enough money, guess where we're going.
Yep.
Straightforward, straight to the point.
Everything you need to know in the title.
Yeah.
So, of course, I cannot not mention a very well-known monster from native North American folklore. Maybe you know what I'm going to say. The Wheatigo or Wendigo. It's known by many names. Have you heard of this? Are you familiar with North American stuff?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are mispronouncing it as Wendigo.
I've seen the Innu seem to say Wheatigo.
What was that?
Wheatigo?
Wheatigo? Okay.
Wheatigo. I probably don't have the intonation right, but that's what I've seen.
Okay. Yeah, I think I do. This one's pretty well known, I think. I don't really know the specifics of it, though.
All you really need to know is that it's a very, very tall, very thin creature. It has this is typically because this guy shows up like all across North America. So there are a lot of different iterations of this story. A lot of, differences and similarities between them. But typically we'll have glowing eyes, long fangs, long tongues. They're very fast. They're very fast hunters. And they're good at doing stuff like mimicking human voices to lure people in. Some are said to be able to change the weather. They're not to be fucked with.
Okay. Yes, I do know this. I think I was thinking of... Is this the same thing as a skinwalker? No, right?
I don't know enough about skinwalkers to tell you if they're the same or not.
Okay, hold on.
I can Google it right now.
Google this right now. I think they are different.
They're different? Okay.
I'm pretty sure they're a little different.
Does it say anything about cannibalism?
No.
Okay. Then they're not the same.
I don't think they're the same. I think one is like more like antler, like deer, like versus the other one's more like a wolf or a dog.
Yeah. Wheatigo seem to veer more into dog man territory, I think.
And I think skinwalkers are actual people, like witches or people like that,
but
who can turn into it.
Okay, so that's maybe a similarity because most Wheatigo stories say that they used to be human, but they succumbed to cannibalism, and that's what transformed them into horrific monsters.
Oh, wow. Maybe they are very similar or the same. I can't really tell.
It's interesting because I feel like is Skinwalkers more of like a southwestern kind of a North America, not North America, I mean like United States occurrence.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know, because something about like Wheatigo, sorry if the intonation's wrong. I know that there have been sightings of them in Minnesota and then across Canada and stuff. So it's like, it makes sense to me for cannibalism worries to be present in very cold, desolate places, right? Because like,
true.
If you run out of options, what are you supposed to do? I guess. I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to do anything if I get too cold or anything, but
I don't think anyone was thinking that.
Okay.
No one's gonna peg you as the FBI's not gonna listen to this and be like, oh,
Google.
Yeah.
Anyway,
take notes on that one. Yeah, nope. No, they're not gonna do that. No.
When I was reading about the Mealy Mountain area specifically and Innu folklore, I read about, and this is where I couldn't find help on how to pronounce these, so I apologize. Meminto, and the Atshin, which were dangerous cannibalistic monsters in the same vein as the Wheatigo. A quick note, by the way, Innu and Inuit are completely different. And I'm going to be starting to talk about Innu more now. The Innu are most closely related to the Cree, and they don't actually have a ton in common with the Inuit, other than, a similar sounding name. They did sometimes interact, though. But most Innu people still live in the Labrador territory today, which they call Nitassinan. I also read of other creatures like this one's really hard for me, the Wapanatsho and the Meimei-Guishu, which were mostly harmless as long as they were left alone. The Wapanatsho sneak around, steal from traps and camps, and throw stones and twigs at tents, which I hate. I hate that. Even if it's harmless, I hate it. That's horrifying. Oh, also they love fog. Apparently, when there's fog is when you're going to run into these guys.
They're just creepy all around.
It is creepy.
And like imagine like camping out in the middle of the woods in pitch black darkness, and you just start hearing these noises, and then you have a rock thrown at your tent, and then all these twigs, and it's foggy. Fuck that.
And I mean, when I was reading the Adam Shoalts book, which we're about to get back to, he, in order to hunt for the Traverse Spine gorilla, he decided to travel there. So he was like traveling through the Mealy Mountains, desolate as fuck. And there were like several times or at least one time where he thought he heard something or something touched his tent or something. And it's just like, was it one of these guys? I don't know. You tell me. But the Meimei-Guishu are small rock spirits who live in caves and rocky remote riverbanks. They're also known as narrow-faced spirits due to their narrow faces.
Boom.
I went above and beyond. I found a magazine.
Oh, is this a magazine?
Yeah, it's published in Labrador, and it just kind of chronicles kind of like trapper information. And this one was specifically stories about the Mealy Mountains. So that's where I was reading a little bit about these little rock spirits and in here. And also, I swear to God, Adam Shoalts got this magazine too, because as I was checking like quotes and stuff I had highlighted, I was like, oh, he's literally quoting this thing that I read. So
cool.
Yeah. One story that was told to anthropologist Peter Armitage in this magazine, but maybe from a separate book, by Pien and Nishet Penashu in 2004, tells that a group of Innu were out canoeing on Cave Creature Lake, which is also known as Meimei-Guishu Nipi. Meimei-Guishu, remember, that's cave creature. That's the little rock spirits.
Mm-hmm.
They reach the end of the lake, and a kind of door in the cliff starts to open.
Oh,
in the cliff
I love
face.
that. I don't know why I love that.
It reveals an entrance to a cave.
Yeah.
And the people who are canoeing, they hear musical instruments being played inside this cave.
Yeah. And
the Innu actually spotted Meimei-Guishu. And apparently, this Meimei-Guishu was very ugly.
Oh,
This is what it said. I don't know.
Rude.
I know. And he had it had a 2D face, a two-dimensional face where like both eyes were on one side. And apparently, allegedly, one of these Innu people talked some shit within earshot. And the Meimei-Guishu they're harmless, but they do not tolerate disrespect, apparently. This is what I've read multiple places. And he chased this Innu man into the water, but he wouldn't go into the water himself. So that's how canoers were able to get away from the Meimei-Guishu.
Serves them
that
right.
was told. That's a story that was told in 2004. I don't know. Did it happen? It's interesting.
Serves them right. You talk shit about someone, you call them ugly. Yeah, they're gonna chase you into the river.
It's very rude.
You lived.
It's extremely rude.
You know what? You're in my house. We opened up our home to you. We were throwing a party for you. Okay, and then you called me ugly?
Seriously, like, how is that the first thing in your mind?
Rude. Ugh.
Why would you say that? I was surprised that because theoretically they would have known that the Meimei-Guishu don't tolerate disrespect.
Yeah.
So
or maybe they learned that day. They're like,
maybe
you
that's
know
what
what?
they learned.
Maybe they were
Maybe he thought nobody could
I
hear.
forgot. I forgot that little detail.
And this is why you never whisper mean things.
Yeah.
Just keep it inside or don't think it. I don't know.
Yeah, or just like if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all.
Yep.
You can really hurt somebody.
Maybe that's why the Meimei-Guishu exist in folklore to teach children not to say mean things.
I think so. It sounds like a lesson for children and for adults, a good reminder story. I mean, that's what stories are all about, really, right?
Yeah.
That's why we tell them.
That's true. That's fucking true.
Either way, if that was a real occurrence, though, that's pretty cool if they do just live in the mountains.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that the whole lake was named after these guys,
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Cave Creature Lake. Or is that the Evil Creature one?
Nope, that's Evil Creature Mountain Lake.
Oh.
That's a different one.
Oh, gosh, sorry. Getting mixed up with my lakes here.
There's a different story from there, but I won't go into it.
Okay.
It's not as interesting.
Okay.
So, you may be wondering, what's going on with the Traverse Spine gorilla? Can we get back to the gorilla, please?
Take it back.
Let's go back to the gorilla. So, we're going deep into the mountains here. Traverse Spine is deep in the mountains. It's a little abandoned settlement, and Adam Shoalts actually fucking found it. Like, he found an abandoned house in the middle of nowhere, and he camped out there. It's very creepy. Like, he went above and beyond trying to get there. Like, it was days of canoeing and hiking around and cliff climbing and all this kind of stuff. Like,
wait, when was this again? What was the time period?
This guy writing this book? Like,
yeah, Adam.
Within the past, 5 years.
Oh, shit. For some reason, I was thinking, back in the 1700s.
No, he was reading accounts from people back in the 1800s, 1930s. And when he came across the story, that's when he decided that he wanted to try to go there and investigate, see if he could add any insight to what could have happened.
Okay, sorry, this is only clicking now. Okay, got it.
No, that's fine. I didn't say.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Okay.
So, again, what's very interesting about this story is that, very experienced trappers who know the land and know the animals in the area reported these sightings or, saw these tracks and didn't know what they were. And doctors, even if they didn't witness it, they saw the tracks and they also didn't know what was going on. And I read part of one of these memoirs by one of the doctors, and he really thought the white people here in this settlement, he really thought they were extremely dumb and very superstitious. He talked mad shit in his memoir.
Whoa.
But he didn't have an explanation for this occurrence either. Despite that, he couldn't, he was like, this is what happened. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. So I'll tell you Adam Shoalts' theory for what this is. If you want to read the book and don't want it spoiled, skip the next, 3 to 5 minutes, okay? So I'm just going to say it. What he proposes, after all this time in the woods, all this time poring over stuff, he thinks that what attacked that family that couple of years, what terrorized the town, the little settlement, was a wolverine. Are you familiar with wolverines, Chloe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a real animal, right?
It is a real animal.
Doesn't sound
correct.
like the gorilla hooved creature we heard of earlier.
No,
grinner.
It doesn't. I mean, they do smile, kind of.
I gotta look
let's
it
find
up
a.
now.
I'll pull up a picture.
Wolverine. They're not that big.
A wolverine. Here, they're scarier than I thought they were.
Okay, I'm ready to get scared. But will I like it? I don't know.
No.
Oh.
Yes, maybe.
Oh.
That's a grin.
That's a snarl.
It's a snarl. But we'll note some things about it that do add up with the description. White mane. They have these silver patches on the top of their heads.
Okay. Sort of.
They stand up on 2 legs a lot of the time. I can't find.
I like how Hugh Jackman is just in a bunch of this.
I know, he's just floating around in these results. They are very aggressive and very scary. They do knock over trees and eat the grubs inside. They rip bark off of stuff. They're just mean, nasty motherfuckers, straight up. I love animals, but wolverines are mean. I can say that confidently.
But didn't they say that standing up on its hind legs, this creature was like 7 feet or something.
They did say that, but we don't know if that height came from the child's account of what they saw. It's possible if it was who was it, Mrs. Michelin, if she was standing far enough away, if it was standing on something, could she have misunderstood the height of this little crazy motherfucker? Because the thing is, wolverines are very, very rare to see in the wild. They are very sneaky little guys. They aren't seen when they don't want to be seen. They're not trapped when they don't want to be trapped. And funnily enough, across different cultures and languages, they're called various things that have to do with the devil. Like they're called little demons, and like in French, their name has something to do with the devil as well. But yeah, they're very good at hiding. So it's very possible these people had never seen a wolverine before.
Can we look at pictures of wolverines on their hind legs?
Yeah. The arms are creepy. Do you see that?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so guys, we're looking at a photo of a wolverine standing on its hind legs. And what strikes me immediately is the low hanging arms, which is what they described, right? The arms are hanging quite low. It's kind of strange looking to me.
He kind of looks like a gorilla.
He could. He could. He kind of looks like a little raccoon bear to me, but I can see why Adam might think this is it. The reason for that being, oh, look at that one on the tree. Yeah. He's like,
that would scare me.
That would scare me too. He doesn't look like he's fucking around. The thing that convinces me a little more that he's probably right, that this is probably a case of seeing a wolverine, is because recently studies have shown that fear can make objects and creatures, whatever, appear larger and closer than they actually are when you're scared.
Very interesting.
Right? So it's usually about, I think the magic number here is like about 3 times, and I have to do more research on this, but I'm pretty sure it's 3 times as big. So for example, I'm scared of spiders. I don't like them. I don't like bugs in general. They really creep me out. But whenever I recall getting freaked out by like a giant cockroach, right? So you hear my words, I said giant. I recall it being huge, like whole, because I'm okay. But when you really look at it again later, when you see it dead on the floor, it's not that bad. It's actually pretty small. When you actually measure it, it's very small, right? But you remember it as being huge. So
I think we all have had experiences where if something catches our attention, like we kind of tunnel vision into it. It's like, whoop, like it's at the forefront of our vision. You know?
And they appear closer, they appear bigger.
That makes so much sense.
I don't know, especially if there was a child sighting and they were taking this child sighting into account. That child is really small.
Yeah.
Right? They're really short.
Going to have a warped,
Exactly. So
yeah, it
could be Wolverine. That's a good contender. Yeah.
In addition to Wolverine, because Wolverines don't have cloven hooves, do they?
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
You know what does have cloven hooves?
Horses dressed up as Wolverines.
That is a great guess.
Damn.
Moose.
Oh, moosies.
Moose.
And is it meese?
Meese. I don't know.
I don't know either.
You know what was not common in Labrador at all, so no trapper would have even known what a moose was? Moose.
Moosies.
They were hanging out in the south. They did not fucking travel up there. So it would be so easy to see these huge ass fucking tracks, assume it's bipedal, because they said, I don't know if I read that in this account, but they were like, oh yeah, it's definitely bipedal, like cloven hoof tracks. But their stance is so broad, right? Like their feet are so far apart. So Adam's theory is that we've got a kind of, I never know how to pronounce it, chimera effect going on here.
Yes, chimera.
And this is the case with a lot of chimeras, where rare sightings of separate creatures get mashed and assumed to be one creature. So we could have a crazy ass wolverine terrorizing the settlement, which is scary in and of itself, and also have a moose walking by that they don't see, and they just have the leftover tracks, and they assume they're related.
Yeah, I was going to say, if they didn't see hooves on this creature when they saw it, then they
didn't mention it.
That's very telling to me that it's probably moose tracks or something else.
Moose tracks.
Yeah.
A good example of this chimera mashing up of different species is the bunyip. Have you heard of the bunyip in Australia?
I have not.
It's a mythical creature of sorts. It's said to have a hideous, gigantic, dog-like appearance with whiskers, flippers, bulging eyes, and a brightly colored chest. And it was reputed to lay greenish-blue eggs of great size, leave marks with sharp claws, and emit a haunting, booming call at night. This is Adam Shoalts teaching me about bunyips, okay? So that's horrifying.
Oh.
That's very weird. A very weird description of a creature.
That's the weirdest description I've ever heard of any creature ever. I'm just like, is that like a seal? Walrus?
That's good fucking guess, dude.
Bird.
It probably fucking was a seal and fucking birds. This thing was said, like this, there were accounts of this bizarre creature in like 1800s, early 1900s in Australia, and people just assumed it was real. But when naturalists and wildlife experts were kind of looking at this, what made more sense was leopard seals, okay? They're a predatory kind of seal. They're fucking big. They have these big-ass crazy eyes, and they, they live on isolated islands. And so they could have occasionally strayed onto the Australian shore and
making
been
it like
seen.
a rare occurrence.
It's a rare occurrence. You know what else is a rare occurrence?
What?
When the southern cassowary, a large flightless bird related to ostriches with spear-like feet that lays giant greenish-blue eggs, fucking hangs out and is colorful. And when the Australasian bittern, a seldom seen nocturnal bird that lives in marshes, makes a booming call. So we've got 3 rare animals that you do not see very often. Thank you, Adam Shoalts. I was just reading his book to you. A seal and 2 rare-ass birds. They all have the descriptors that get mashed into the bunyip. Like,
oh man,
it makes all the sense in the world that you would get these glimpses of strange creatures and assume these things are connected.
Boom.
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 Does that account for everything that the people of Traverse Spine witnessed? We'll never fucking know. We don't fucking know. We
won't know. All we can do is look at the evidence at hand, the information given to us, and make a guess. But, as likely as those conclusions are, we still will never know for sure.
We'll never know.
Right?
We'll
because
never know.
We didn't live in their shoes. We didn't experience what they experienced. We don't know. Yeah. But that sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, in addition to thinking about, how many creatures that we hear of in wild places like this could be chimeras, like, there's really something to be said for, like, how far our imaginations can take us when we're in these wide, like, wide open spaces, and we're, like, far away from larger civilization. Like, I've been to the desert, I've been to the North Woods, and it's easy for sounds to take on, like, a different significance,
Sure.
I will say I tried to find what it's called. I could not find what it's called, but there is a theory about how we as humans animate sounds that we hear. And it's like a survival technique. Like, if we hear a weird sound outside, or we hear a weird sound in the house, our brains want to apply like an animal significance to it, human, animal, whatever. Because speaking survivally, like,
sure, yeah.
If we prepared ourselves, like, to be attacked by a lion when we heard a sound, we have a better chance of not being attacked by a lion, right?
Yes.
So it makes all the sense. And I mean, I do that all the time. Like, I always assume noises that I hear are, like, somebody trying to break into the house or something.
Oh God, that was
never
me last night. My
really?
Cat, Libby heard something in the bathroom a few times, and I heard it too, and I was like, not today. Especially because there's been like specifically a lot of very violent crimes circled around women in Hawaii just within the past 2 weeks.
It's horrifying.
No, it is, and I think it has a lot of us on edge. I'm not going to go into it. It's very horrific, actually, for our community. So I've just been more on edge and paranoid because there just seems to be a lot more unhinged Homo sapiens on the loose rather than demons or ghosts or whatever. Getting a little off topic here, but something I kind of concluded to myself a few years ago is like, the real demons and devils of the world are human beings. Like it's not going to be found in myth or in religion. It's going to be human beings.
Yeah.
We are the scariest.
That's what's so interesting about the Wheatie ghost story, isn't it? Because like that, it's not just a random horrifying creature in the woods. That was a human who did a horrific thing. Right.
And so of course, other humans hearing that story would think this person is cursed. This person is, devilish, I suppose. I don't even know if that's a word. Not devious, but like devil-like, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
Of evil roots, I suppose. Because they did something so unthinkable.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Like humans are a lot more creepy than we realize.
Yes.
We are. We have some twisted, dark stuff about us, but
that's true.
It's interesting that we put them into stories and we create. Our brains try to fill in stuff so we can understand better, so we can like cope with the things that go on.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And I mean, a lot of these stories, like in addition to them helping us understand the world better or understand terrible things better, like how many of these stories that we hear could also be told to keep people away from like legitimately dangerous places,
cautionary
tales, like rugged, cold terrain where you could easily get lost, or to warn your family of people that you're unfamiliar with and may not be able to trust, calling the Dorset people the Tunit and being wary of them. It makes me wonder, like, what stories might the Dorset people have told their families about the Thule people or the Inuit people, and like to warn them, like what made them so scared to the point to eventually just like all die off or disappear because it's not safe to interact with them, and then we'll never hear those stories, but I'm sure they were probably terrifying.
Yeah. Also with stories, I think it's a lot easier to remember a story than just some boring old facts, like to weave it into a story or even to create a monster or a creature. It stays with you. It sticks with you more. And so I think it's more effective.
Definitely.
So stories are very interesting. And that's why I like that we're doing this podcast, because I'm interested in separating the stories that our minds create as cautionary tales or to communicate lessons and to pass those lessons down versus the real creepy shenanigans that go on that could very well be real,
And that's what's interesting about these Labrador stories. Like we get confirmation of certain things, or we can see the like quote unquote reality, like the just cold hard facts of some of it. But then there's still questions left over. And it's like, if certain things, like if the Tunit can be confirmed to be real, like those legends were real, like what else is real in the legends,
Right.
It's not all completely made up.
Yeah. And that's why...
Where's the Isle of Demons?
Yeah. And that's... and I think that's why this is really important to talk about this, because then we're able to differentiate between myth and then maybe something that has more meat to it, something that could actually lead to a real discovery, But we're not going to be able to tell the difference unless we go into it. So this was really awesome. And not to assume that you're done.
I know I'm done. That's it.
Oh, that's it, guys. Wow. This was really good. I feel like we went quite deep.
I really try my best to find stuff that actually had meat to it and wasn't just like, oh, this trapper was scared one night, the end. Like, because there are a lot of stories like that. But
yeah,
it was really interesting to to learn both about the natural history of Labrador and to learn more about the cultures that intertwined there.
Man, I feel like I got smarter just within the past hour and a half or however long we've been doing this. Wow. Thank you so much. I loved that. That's probably one of my more favorite episodes so far out of the 4. Yeah, that was really good. It. Yeah.
Thank you.
Not to just shit on the other 3, but the other 3 were good too. Go listen.
They were all good.
They were all good.
I will put links to the various different things that I used to research this topic in the show notes. And shout out to The Whisper on the Night Wind by Adam Shoalts. Read that thing cover to cover. It's a fun read. It's kind of an adventure-y thing. And that shout out to Them Days magazine doing
Them Days.
Doing I was gonna say the Lord's work, but that doesn't
the Lord's
right. It's not really what I mean. Doing great things. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Spreading the Labrador word and making it accessible to me. Like, would I have ever been able to buy a fucking magazine from Labrador, Canada? Like isolated Labrador cities, I don't know, 15 years ago? Probably not.
I'm really impressed with you that you read a book and a magazine, and I'm just, wow. No, this was awesome.
Cool.
It kind of triggered like that very human part of myself, right? Like the very basic Homo sapien part of myself where, you know, you hear like these stories or these rumors of things, and I got to really engage in my mind building an image. So that was interesting.
Hell yeah.
So I enjoyed that. All right, guys. So thank you so much for joining us. Please rate our show if you liked it. If you want to give it a nice 5-star review, nothing's stopping you. If you want to give us a 1 or 2-star review, don't.
Do something else.
You can do something else with your time.
There's so many activities to do. Oh my
There's
God.
so many good things that'll make you feel better.
If you haven't yet, be sure to check us out on social media. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. Pretty much everywhere. If you search I'm Scared But I Like It podcast, you will find us, except on Instagram, where we are ISBILI pod. ISBILI pod. Stands for I'm Scared But I Like It. We would love to have you all join the conversation. If you have any spooky stories you want to share with us, please feel free to DM us or email us at imscaredbutilikeit@gmail.com. We would love to hear your stories and potentially share them on an upcoming episode. If you would like to support our research or production of the podcast, or potentially us meeting one day because we still have not met yet, please feel free to check out our Ko-fi page. There's a link to it in the description, kofi.com/I'm Scared But I Like It. Thank you.
And I guess that's it. That's all we got.
Thank you for listening. I appreciate you hanging out with us on the shores of Canada and in the mountains. We love it there. I've never been to Canada.
We are a little scared, but we like it.
We like it.
I like this one. The last episode, I didn't like it. I was scared and I didn't like it. But this episode, I'm scared and I do like it. So that's always a good sign. Anyway, bye. Thank you so much.
Bye,
See you
everybody.
in the next one.
Bye.